Right, now that you have cut your sentences out with Mrs. Cantwell, you're going to be getting them in order and writing them down on this paper. So grab this paper if you don't have it already, and you're going to need a pencil as well. First thing you do is always write your name on your paper. And then if you notice on sentence number 1, there's a little party hat. So you're going to need to find the sentence that has a picture of the party hat on it. So here is that sentence, and I've got all the pieces cut out from when I was working with Mrs. Cantwell, right? And so now we're going to be, you may have already put them in order with Mrs. Cantwell, but I'll do a little bit of a review on that. We always know that the first word in a sentence is going to have a capital letter. Now, sometimes you're going to see names with capital letters, but I don't think we put any names in these sentences because we didn't want to confuse you. So the first one that I see that has a capital letter is the word did. So I know that's going to be my first word, and I'm just going to lay that on top right there of that first blank area. The next word is going to be this word. Do you know what that word is? That's right, it's you. So that's going to be my next word. Does anybody know what this word is? If you said get, you are correct. Lay that down next. The next word should be the. I bet you knew that already. This one's kind of a hard word, but it's party, party. And then my last word is, I bet you guys know what that one is because we've done the at word family. That word is hat. And do you see that thing on the end? That is called a question mark. And do you see on your paper you have boxes at the end? These bigger boxes are probably either going to be a question mark or an exclamation mark. And what do you think these smaller boxes are going to be? If you said a period, then you are correct. So let's read our sentence now. It says, did you get the party hat? And because it has a question mark at the end, boys and girls, we need to make our voice go up at the end. So let's say that sentence again. Did you get the party hat? And now we're going to write that down on our paper. Try your best to stay in these lines and try your best to also write it so that your letters go where they're supposed to go. Try your best on that question mark because I know that one's kind of a hard one to write. So now I'm done with those. I'm going to slide those off. My next picture is a picture of the mouth. So I've got to find the sentences that are of the mouth. So again, if you remember, how do we know what the first word of our sentence is going to be? It's going to have a capital letter. So I found the word the. The next word is this is a picture of that word. So what's that word? Mouse. Do you know that word? Sight word. Has. Another sight word. Or a. And then what is the mouse holding in his hand? It's a cookie. And we guessed it correctly. The end of the sentence is going to have a period. Sorry, you're hearing my dog barking at something. Let's just continue. So now that we have that all correct, let's read it. The mouse has a cookie. The mouse has a cookie. So now I'm going to write that sentence in, making sure I have a capital letter at the beginning of my sentence. that period in your little box there. We always need a period at the end of our sentence or some sort of another end mark because that shows our reader that that's the end of our sentence and we need to do a little pause before we go on to the next sentence. All right, what's the next picture? A picture of, it's a pig. So find your sentences with the pig. This time, I'm just going to mix these up and we're going to see if we can figure something out. I'm just going to lay these out. We're going to read them and we're going to figure out what order they're going to go in. Do you see something that tells us what the first word of the sentence is? If you see a word with a capital letter, that's our first word of the sentence. And I found it. What's the word? If you said did, you are correct. So I'm going to slide those down. Did, and then I know my last word of the sentence because it has an end mark of some sort. Do you see a period, an exclamation mark, or a question mark? I see a question mark right here, so that tells me that's the end of my sentence. So that's going to be my last word. Let's see if this makes sense right now because I don't know. All I know right now is these are my first and last words, but a sentence also has to make sense. So let's see if this one makes sense as it is. Did you see pig? That doesn't make any sense. So I know these are not in the right order, so I'm going to slide those out. Thinking about what you might say in a sentence, I might ask someone if they saw something. So you is probably my next sentence, next word in my sentence. And then see maybe, and then the. Let's see if that is the correct order for the sentence. Does it make sense? Did you see the pig? That makes sense to me. So I think we're ready to write it now. Don't forget to put your capital letter at the beginning. What do we see in the middle of our, or in between each of our words? We're going to see a little bit of something like this. That's called a space. We have to space our words out so that we can read what it says more easily. So I'm going to write, did you see the pig? I'm going to put my question mark in that box. So remember, a sentence has to have a capital letter at the beginning. It has to have an end mark. It has to have spaces between the words, and it also has to make sense. So there's a lot of things that go into making up a sentence. We're on to our last sentence. You should have a set of sentences with a moose picture. So that's our fourth sentence. Let's look at these. I'm just going to put these out in any order and mix them up. And do you see something with a capital letter? I bet you do because you can read it. The word is I, so I've got to move that one over to the first spot. And then looking, do you see something with an end mark, a period, an exclamation mark, or a question mark? I see a period, and it's on this word right here. So let's move that back down to the end. And now these middle ones, I don't know which order they go in. So let's read the sentence and see if it makes sense. I big see a moose. That doesn't make any sense to me. So now I got to figure out with these, what order I'm going to put them in. Maybe I see, let's see if this makes sense. I see a big moose. That makes sense. So that must be the order of our sentence. Let's write that down. And if at any time you are having trouble keeping up with what I'm doing, you just can go ahead and pause that video until you catch up with what I'm doing and then restart it when you are ready to restart it. Make sure we put that end mark at the end of our sentence. Oops, you couldn't see that. Put that end mark at the end of the sentence, and now we are all finished with our paper. So let's go back and read our sentences. Did you get the party hat? The mouse has a cookie. Did you see the pig? I see a big moose. Now, these characters might be familiar to you because there's a story called If You Give a Pig a Party, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, If You Give a Pig a Pancake, and If You Give a Moose a Muffin. Have you listened to those stories already in class? If not, you're probably going to be listening to them really soon. I hope you enjoyed making some sentences with me, boys and girls.